So before we really get into this, I have a question for those of you who game on PC, which is, how many games do you own on Steam? If I had to bet money on it, then I would say that you probably have over 100 games on Steam. And I would go further than that, and I would say that you probably have 100 games that you haven't played on Steam. If gaming isn't your thing and you're more into reading, then I would bet money that you have a lot of books that you haven't read. And seeing as how we are on YouTube, I would bet that everyone here has at least a few videos in their watch later list. Personally, I think I have something like 2,500 videos in my watch later list. And so today I wanted to talk about the cost of having everything. I think this is a strange topic that I'm looking to discuss today, mostly because it hasn't been a problem, up until recently, up until the past 10, 20 years. Or if we're being honest, it's probably been a problem for that, but it's probably been a problem that is exclusive to the higher class, to the rich people. I remember seeing an interview with David Bowie from, I think it was the 90s, where he was talking about how many books he had, and I think he had something like 20,000 books. And David Bowie in this video said something to the extent that even if he sat down and read for the rest of his life, he wouldn't be able to make it through all of his books. But sometimes it feels like that's the position I found myself in, where I look around at all the crap I have and I'm like, wow, there are so many games that I could be playing. There are so many books I could be reading. If you have access to the internet and if you have a YouTube account, which judging by the fact you're watching this video, you probably do. If you have these things, then that means that there are a billion videos you could be watching. That means that there are a billion songs you could be listening to. If you have something like Netflix or 1,000 other streaming services, then you could be watching any movie, any TV show. If there's something you're interested in, such as learning how to weightlift, learning how to get fit or exercise, you can find videos and you can find huge discussions about these types of things. And even if you don't have physical copies of books, then all of the classics, everything that's public domain, is available online. And even if you don't like reading, you can get it as audiobooks. And that stuff alone, the text, the prose that is in the public domain, is enough to last you several lifetimes. And the point I'm trying to make here is the fact that we have so much stuff that is available to us that is great. If no one here were to spend another dime on media or entertainment or anything like that, then we would still have enough stuff to last us for the rest of our lives. And going back to the example given at the beginning, if you have a Steam account, I would bet that you have enough games on there to last you the rest of your life. I know I do. And so we have all this stuff available to us, and I feel like it hasn't always been this way. As I'm saying, I feel like there are a lot of things, such as the public domain sites that host books and stuff like that, or even streaming services like Spotify or Netflix or Amazon Prime or whatever. This crap didn't exist 40 years ago. In 1985, if you wanted an album, then you had to go and purchase a physical copy of it. You had to purchase a tape or a vinyl record or a CD. 30 years ago, if you wanted to see a movie, then you either had to go watch it in theaters or you had to buy a VHS tape or a DVD. You see, I'm probably part of the last generation to remember VHS tapes. And I know they're still around and stuff, but yeah, kids don't watch VHS tapes. They watch their iPads. And so as I'm saying here, there is so much stuff. And I feel like there's a cost to having everything. Personally, speaking only for myself and for no one else, I feel like there's this huge weight on my mind whenever I look around at all the cool crap that exists out there. There's a huge amount of crap that would influence me in positive ways if only I had the time to watch it, to read it. There are countless bands that I would fall in love with if only I listened to their stuff. I think that we have more opportunities to consume media than ever before. And that's a point that I wanted to bring up. Consuming media is very much a real thing in this day and age. And whenever I talk about consuming media, I really am kind of talking about the idea of just blazing through a show, blazing through a series so that way you can get on to the next one, playing a game, rushing through it so that way you can get to the next one, which you will then rush through so that way you can get to the next one. Long story short, I feel like due largely in part to the internet, I feel like there's a lot of crap out there that we know of now that is great. It used to be that there was something like the radio. It used to be that if you wanted to play games, then you had to go to the arcade where they had however many cabinets. And so certainly people's taste palettes were limited. The circle of things that they liked was probably much smaller than what we like now. This is something I talked about in my Death of Monoculture video not quite a year ago. To sum up that video, it feels to me like nowadays there is not a singular monoculture. There are things that are popular, there are things that are famous, but they're not all dominating in the same way that what was popular and famous used to be. I think that largely due to the internet, it's possible to become ingrained in a subculture and to only focus on that. I think it's much easier to remain ignorant of what is popular and what is beloved by most people. And I think it's much easier to exist in your tiny bubble without any connection to the broader mainstream. Because you do have popular stuff, you have the Fast and the Furious or Transformers or Marvel movies or Batman movies or whatever stuff that everyone likes. But largely, I think it's a lot easier to remain ignorant of that kind of crap. I think it's a lot easier to just kind of stay away from it if you want. But I think that nowadays we are more conscious than ever of all the stuff we're missing out on. The idea that there is a fear of missing out is probably a much stronger idea that resonates with more people now than it once did. People have always been afraid to miss out on a concert or an experience of some sort, but nowadays, now that you know what everyone else is doing due to social media, now that if you listen to Spotify, you are sent an email for any time a band that you listen to once comes into concert, now that it's easier to exchange videos and pictures and to show what actually went down and took place, due to all of these things, I now think it's easier than ever to feel that fear of missing out. And so again, I think it's this FOMO that leads to consuming. I think it's this FOMO that leads to binging. I think that it's this feeling that there's something more. There's another game to be played, there's another record to listen to. It is this feeling that there is another video to watch after this one that causes you to speed through this without actually fully engaging with it. So it feels to me like the cost of having everything, as I'm calling it, is twofold. The first part of the cost of everything is the fact that there is this very clear and obvious mental weight on you. You know exactly what you are missing out on. We have all these websites like IMDb or Goodreads where they allow you to track all the books that you want to read or all the movies you want to watch. Steam has a wish list. On Spotify, of course, you can make playlists with music that you haven't heard. So all these things come together and make it feel like there's a lot that you're missing out on in this world. And quite frankly, it's true. It's true. There is a lot that you're missing out on. As I'm saying, even if you did nothing but read books for the rest of your life, there would still be a lot of books that you missed out on reading. If you did nothing but sit down and play games for the rest of your life, there would still be a lot of games that you missed out on playing. If you sat down and listened to records for the rest of your life, then there would still be a lot of great stuff that you're missing out on. And again, in this game that we call life, all of these things are laid on top of each other. There's an opportunity cost to everything. And so if you're playing a game right now, then that means that you cannot go to a concert right now. And if you're listening to an album, you also can't be in the theater watching a movie. And if you're watching a movie, you also can't be reading a book. And if you're reading a book, you also can't be looking at and admiring artwork. And so there's just all this crap and it's all laid on top of each other, and we are more conscious of it than ever before. And so as I'm saying, I think that's the first part of the cost of everything. It's just that mental weight, it's that FOMO, it's that drain on your energy. And part two of the cost of everything is a response to the first part. We have this FOMO, we have this fear of missing out on great stuff. And so what that means is that whenever we're actually looking at something, whenever we're actually playing a game, we oftentimes try to speed through it as quickly as possible so that way we move on to the next thing. And so the second part to the cost of everything is that we don't fully appreciate the things that are right in front of us. We are all too aware of all the masterpieces and all of the great things that exist outside of us. We know that there are so many awesome, incredible things waiting for us if only we had the time for them. And so because of that, sometimes you can have a tendency to speed through and not fully appreciate that which you are engaging with right now. There have been times when I've been sitting in my chair reading a book and I've thought to myself, oh man, I need to get through this book as quickly as possible so that way I can move on to the next book. And then I get to the next book and then I think to myself, okay, I need to get through this one as quickly as possible to get to the next book. And so I do think that it's important in your life to be focused on your goals and such. But there have been times in my life when I've tried speeding through one piece of media as quickly as possible to get to the next, and it all kind of feels pointless. The reason why you play games is to have fun. The reason why you read is ideally to have fun or to get something out of it. The reason why you listen to records is to have fun. The reason why you watch movies is to have fun. And of course, I've talked about this in my look back video before, but if you're a creator, then it's difficult to engage with these pieces of art without trying to take something from them away for your own art. And so for me, it's really difficult to read a book without approaching it from the mindset of a writer and trying to figure out what I can take from it. It's really difficult for me to read a book and not think about how I could apply the things that I've learned, the lessons I've learned to my own writing. And as I said in that video, I think that's just kind of it's the price you pay, I guess. And I don't think that it's all bad, and I think there's a lot of good that comes from it. But I do think that it makes my experience reading books different than, you know, a friend who doesn't have any interest in writing. And so these are the two parts of the cost of everything. And so the question that follows it, of course, is what do we do about it? And really, the answer is obvious. You should see it coming from a mile away. It's just that you slow down, essentially. You just take your time with stuff and you try to fully appreciate it as much as you can. There's something Nietzsche wrote, and I can't find the quote exactly right now, but he wrote something to the extent that you can only get from a book what you've brought to it. Or in other words, you can have the greatest masterpiece in the world, but if you don't bring anything into it, if you don't fully appreciate it, if you don't have the skills or the insights necessary to fully appreciate what is written or what is said in it, then you won't get anything from it. So an example from this is that, like, if you read the Brothers Karamazov but you don't get anything from it, then that says more about you than it does about Dostoevsky. But the reason I bring this up is because of the fact that I do think that we have a tendency to speed through pieces of media. So it does feel like, at least in me, in this very quick and fast-paced society, there is this urge to do more. There's this urge to read more and to watch more and to, you know, consume basically. That's really what this video is about, is it's about the consumer. But really, if you just speed through things and you don't fully appreciate them, and if you don't let the ideas sink in, if you don't make time for a piece of art and give it a chance to change your soul, so to speak, then I don't think you will get anything from it. And this is actually a point that Jay-Z made some time ago. He was talking about album reviewers and how there's this urge to get your review out as quickly as possible whenever a new record comes out. And so what that results in is it results in people listening to a record once and then just spewing their thoughts out there. And in this video, the point that Jay-Z makes is that you can't fully appreciate a record if you just listen to it once. If you don't fully spend time with a piece of media, if you don't fully spend time with a piece of art, then you're just not going to get anything from it. And that's a thing on sites like Rate Your Music, where everyone is super dismissive of everything pretty much. There are people who write reviews for an album after one listen, and that's how they judge it. And there are certain things that I've heard before and I'm like, yeah, this is garbage, I'm never going to listen to this again. But then there are a lot of things out there that cause me to think and reflect. If something is truly unique and brings new ideas to the fold and talks about things that you've never experienced before or seen before, then it will take time to fully evaluate those ideas. I remember the first time I heard The Downward Spiral, I listened to it all the way through, and I didn't know if I liked it or not. That record, whenever I heard it for the first time, was just so foreign and strange to me that I had to listen to it again and again and again to truly understand it and to figure it out, essentially. And of course now, it's one of my favorite records of all time. But if I had only listened to it once, if I had listened to it as quickly as possible, so that way I could move on to the next record, then it would not have the same special place in my heart that it does now. And so to wrap up, I think that there's a price to be paid for having everything. There's a price to be paid for knowing everything and for having a perfect knowledge of everything that goes on around us while having a finite ability to engage in it. And so I think if you're not careful, then you can slip away from appreciating art into just straight consumerism. And so I think that's what I have to say. So thank you for watching. Let me know your thoughts down below. Let me know how many Steam games you have, by the way, because I bet you I'm right. I bet you that you have over 100 games if you have a Steam account. And to be fair, a lot of that just comes from like bundles and crap like that. So like Humble Bundle, for instance, used to be way better. And so it used to be worth it to buy the $1 tier and you would get like 5 games when in reality you only wanted 1. And so that's why I have, you know, like 800 plus games on Steam. And then also if you've just had a PC for a long time, then, you know, you buy games, I guess. But anyways, these are my thoughts. Thank you for watching. Have a nice night. Goodbye.